Hello everyone, welcome to the What If Anime YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into an exciting new story that will take your imagination to the next level. Let's get started. What if Naruto was fall in love with girls of Doki Doki Literature Club? Now let's start. Chapter 1. Naruto didn't know how to feel when he had finished playing the game, Doki Doki Literature Club. It had been a mysterious present that had arrived at his door for his birthday. Truth be told, Naruto had been skeptical. He wondered if it had been either a present disguised as a bomb or even something with poisonous gas in it. He wouldn't have put it past the villages on days like his birthday, but it had been a piece of paper to a link for a website where he could download the game in question. Needless to say, Naruto both loved and hated the game. In some areas, what Monica had done to those girls, even if they weren't real, did not sit well with the young boy. She claimed that she valued them as friends. She enjoyed her time with them all, and she claimed she loved it when they shared poems. In Naruto's eyes, Monica had been the friend that anyone would die for, and she betrayed them all by messing with their code, deleting them, and even making them unlikable. For someone like Naruto, who loved his friends, this made him very angry. Now, yes, one might be saying that it was stupid to get angry at a video game character, but Naruto couldn't help it. There was just something so real and physical about the girl. Anyway, on the other hand, she just wanted him to see her, to love her, to be with her. She knew she was a video game construct, forever to not have her own will or choice because of the developers of said game. Naruto admitted it that for the first time, even if the game didn't give him too many options, he wished he could have spent more time with her. Maybe then, she might not have done what she did. Then again, that was how her game character was designed to be. But why did her words move him? When she moved past his video game character and actually called his name, or should I call you Naruto or something? Something clicked in him. She couldn't have just been fake. There she was, trapped in her own world for such a long time, and whenever he turned on his computer she was there to greet him. No doubt her questions and answers were ingrained in her coding by the developers. But every time she asked him how his day had gone, he couldn't help feeling insane when he told her, to a computer screen, how he had become a shinobi, how he had taken his first mission, and how the Chunin exams had gone. He even told her about the Kyuubi. She had made a funny comment about foxes, but Naruto wondered just how genuine her responses were. He spoke with her like he spoke with no one else. He felt like she was just like him in some ways. She was lonely. She wanted someone to care. She wanted real friends and a real life. She tried so hard to fight the fate that had been put on her. She wasn't like Neji, who just cried and complained. No, she was just like Naruto. Naruto looked forward to those days of speaking with her. After training, he would turn on his computer and he would ask her how she was feeling. She would reply to him in little tidbits of information that the developers ingrained into her. Naruto found that he could spend nearly 3 hours just playing against her at ping pong. Though he hated the computer part of it because he never won, but it was the time spent with Monica that made Naruto enjoy her. Whenever he turned off his computer, his thoughts would linger on her. She would still be sitting in that chair, in the room of darkness with only herself to keep her company until Naruto had more free time. Naruto spent so many sleepless nights berating his own stupidity. This was ridiculous. How could he be friends with a damn fictional girl in a computer? He was so damn sure he had fallen off the deep end of the spectrum. But he slept soundly every time he heard her question. "Do you love me?" was what she asked. Naruto still remembered the guilt when he deleted Monica's character file. The pain she wrought out to him made him feel like he was no better a friend than those kids at the academy who deleted him from their lives. Luckily for him, Naruto was able to track down that file. Computers never truly deleted something from their systems anyway, and it was easy to bring it back. It wasn't like Naruto was completely inept with computers. It just took him a bit of time to understand the technical babble. Still, he was not without the determination to do so. However, even as Naruto fumbled over his dreams, he had done something even he described as completely stupid. He had told his friends about Monica. Well, let him clarify. He told them that he had met a Monica, but he forgot to mention the in the computer part. Sasuke was as expected. He hardly cared about who could be Naruto's friend. Kakashi seemed to only consider it with passing interest, and Sakura had just told him that the girl must have been a lonely individual to be friends with him. He had hoped that was in a joking manner, but he couldn't have said for sure. But Team 7 noticed his mood and he always seemed to be glowing with happiness whenever he mentioned Monica. So, Sasuke had told Naruto to bring Monica for a quick hello to the team. Naruto had been thrown for a quick loop and it was then that he worried about his mouth. Sakura had easily shared the sentiment. Yeah, you talk about her like she's so great. Bring her around, Naruto. Sakura said. It was at this that the genin began to sweat. There was no way, even on his deathbed, would he say he was talking about a computer girl for a friend. That would just end anyone thinking he was competent at all. So, as typical people did, Naruto had to play it off. He arranged that she was sick and wasn't allowed very many visitors. He also told them that it was with a girl who had been in another village. He had met her through exchanging letters. Truth be told, Naruto doubted they believed him, but Sasuke merely smirked. HMPH, she's fake, I bet. That's why you won't show her to us. Do you dress your hand up with hair and call it, Monica, Dobi? Sasuke asked, with a light laugh. Sakura couldn't resist a light chuckle and Kakashi, despite himself, wished he hadn't smirked. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki just stood in front of them, humiliated. Thoughts of Monica sitting on that chair, in that room, just waiting for him to log onto his computer made him snarl. Naruto had surprised Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi by slamming Sasuke in the face with his fist. Naruto punched Sasuke harder and harder and harder. Constantly, he claimed that she was real. He claimed that he wasn't making it up. He claimed in anger that she was a better friend than all of them put together. He claimed that she loved him. He claimed that she was a better friend than all of them put together. Kakashi had thrown his young, blonde subordinate off Sasuke while Sakura tended to the Uchiha's bruised face. Naruto growled at them all as the tears fell from his face. MN computer girl was a better friend than the whole village. Naruto just couldn't take it. I hate this team, had been what he said and he ran off leaving the tree. Speechless, he had raced home and locked his door. He then closed his blinds and turned on his computer. He clicked the application and Monica came up. She continued to smile that odd grin that somehow told him she knew all about what had happened even if it wasn't possible that she did. Naruto rubbed his eyes and he talked to her. He asked her how she was doing and she answered. She told him about how she felt she could have run the club better or how she wished she could have done things differently than the approach she had gone with. How Naruto wished the same, to be honest. Still, his hand slowly stopped on the keyboard when he ran out of things to talk about. He looked at the computer screen and he was brought back to what had happened earlier. So he changed their dynamic with his next question. Would you like me to get you out of there? Naruto asked and then pressed enter. The young blonde was unsure if something happened to the program, but Monica didn't say anything. She just continued to stare as if she couldn't comprehend the question. So, Naruto typed it again. She still gave no answer. It wasn't long before an error in the program came to his attention and the window abruptly closed. Naruto was left in surprise before he tried to open the application again. Error, application not responding, was all Naruto needed to see. The rest of the computer stuff was lost to him. Naruto blinked. Had he done something wrong? Did he break the program? He didn't know. Naruto sighed and he tightly closed his eyes. He was going insane. He had to be. Was his need for attention so damn important that he couldn't even tell real from fake now? He was talking to a damn computer. But even so, she should have at least given a generic answer put up by the system. I don't know. Is that important right now? You're silly. You know. That would have been some of the answers he had been thinking about, but she just shut down. She didn't even give him a reply and now the application wasn't working. Naruto thought to delete the game and reinstall it. But, would that Monica be this Monica? Would she be the Monica that he constantly spoke with? He didn't think so. So, he sadly spent his time on the computer looking at various chakra-related exercises. Naruto tried the application a couple times that day and each response was the same. This occurred over the next 2 to 3 months. The blonde had Apollo, giz to Sasuke and the rest of his team, but the mood and dynamic between them all had lessened. Naruto didn't speak as much to Sakura, he didn't raise to Sasuke's taunts, and he brushed off Kakashi's attempts at consoling him. There were many things the Jonin was, but a comforter was not one of them. Still, Naruto did his required missions with his team, all the while hoping to Kami that when he returned home then he would click the application and Monica would appear in front of him. It was the end of the 3rd month and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi came home. He was very tired. He and the rest of his team had gotten back from their mission of saving Princess Koyuki of the land of Snow and allowing her to finish her Princess Gale movie. Naruto had seen the movie and he admitted that she had done a very good job. But the young genin couldn't get as into it as he would have liked. Reason being was that he was much too anxious to get home. He stepped into his lonely apartment and kicked off his shoes. He turned to his computer screen and sighed. Dare he hope, dare he think, despite his tired self, he had done it for those whole 3 months. Would today be any different? He didn't know, but he would do it regardless, because he wanted to see her, even if she wasn't real. So, he pulled up his chair and leaned back into it. He turned on his computer and entered his credentials. Jinchuriki hovered the folder and clicked the application. He sat back in his chair and waited, closing his eyes for a moment. Perhaps if Naruto wasn't so tired, he would have noticed that the application didn't start right away. He would have seen that its files were being updated and it was downloading some other files and documents. By the time Naruto opened his eyes he was surprised to see Monica sitting in her chair. In that familiar room, yet her knowing smirk was gone. Instead, that smile seemed more hopeful. The young man could only widen his eyes at the text in the middle of the screen. Only one word was written on it. Yes, was what it said. Naruto backed away from his computer in utter surprise. He wondered if his mind was now playing tricks on him again. He wondered if the furball had put chakra over his eyes to make him see what he thought he was seeing. That got a growl out of his tenant. The boy could only look on at the text box. She answered him. Could those developers have been playing tricks on him? No, there was no way they would do that. This would go too far even for a joke. But it looked so real in her eyes, while her body position never changed, still looked glad. Really? Naruto asked. He leaned forward to the computer screen as his words were sent to her. He guessed that she had read the text because she then replied to him. Naruto dropped his body to his chair and a breath of the unknown surged through him. She replied to him, yes, and waited in silence. Naruto began to ask her many other things not related to that question. He asked her what her favorite food was. He asked her where she grew up. He asked her what she had been doing since the application closed. His fingers were a flurry of activity, but, to his shock, sadness, and disappointment, she only could give generic answers to those questions which Naruto didn't like. However, he noticed that she had definitely either been updated or she had been modified in some way. For example, she had never asked him his gender before. I suppose now that I'm your girlfriend, at least in game, then I should know more about the real you. Are you male or female? Was just one of the questions. Now, technically, as a shinobi, Naruto could be both. It wasn't like a game had ever asked him his preference when it came to these types of things. Admittedly, this was his first dating sim game that he had never played. Though he had seen a mod for the game, Naruto didn't think they were all that important. Maybe this could have counted as a mod. Well, then again it was supposed to be after the original, so maybe it was something else entirely. Still, Naruto had to give a light blush at her use of girlfriend. Naruto never had a girlfriend, real or otherwise. Of course, he could also assume those were just based off his choices when he brought her back. Still, it was good for the Jinchuriki to see her again. She definitely changed in that she was either given, or took, control of some of the systems. She made different facial expressions and it sent a shiver down Naruto's spine. It felt like he was speaking to an actual person this time. He replied that he was male, and then she chuckled, apologizing if she said anything offensive, which he doubted that she did. Also, the background outside the window had changed. It was no longer a black, fiery abyss of death, but rather it held a sunny background. It made her look a lot more friendly. For the whole night until morning, Naruto played both ping pong and shogi with her. Granted, he never beat her once, and he wondered why that was possible. But he was too happy to care. Yes, he would do it. He would find a way to get her out of there. He swore it upon his Nindo way. Did he love her? He didn't think so, but she was a friend. Let it be known that Naruto never lacked for motivation when he put his mind to something. He had studied as much as he could about computers and even the possible existence of artificial intelligences. He also studies their correlation between computers and the ability to analyze chakra. Oh, don't get Naruto wrong, he was lost on almost all of it, but thanks to some the men and women who worked with computers in the village, most notably the science department, he had thought he was making some headway. The thing was, Monica, as a product of a computer, had no chakra. She was not a true living being. Naruto had learned from the people who instructed him that chakra did not appear just from anything. It had to be formed. Obviously, yes, but that wasn't the point Naruto was making. It's not like he could analyze Monica's chakra because she had no chakra to analyze. Plus, he had to spend a good majority of his funds to even upgrade and buy some other computers to run these ideas. Naruto couldn't even count the number of sleepless nights he gave for Monica while he tested things. For Team 7, they were all shocked to the core when they saw Naruto act. Reading computer science terminology. Sasuke wondered if he could dispel this genjutsu in front of him. Sakura wondered if she woke up in a parallel universe. Hell, Kakashi wondered if Guy wasn't going to come challenge him today or tomorrow. Whoever this person was, it couldn't be Naruto. Still, Naruto didn't bother with them. He was too busy reading and he couldn't understand it. Monica's coding was even more difficult than he had pictured. Plus, there was still the fact of no chakra. She couldn't come to the world without chakra of some kind. He didn't know what to do. It was like he was running around in circles with the information. Hell, Tsunade couldn't help to even point him in the right direction. Had anyone tried to bring chakra to an inanimate object? Well, maybe the puppets of Suna were the exception. But Naruto didn't see that to be very similar. Naruto knew talking to Monica on his own was going to be a moot point. Oh, Naruto still continued to talk to her and play games with her. But it kind of lost its appeal a bit when she beat him every single time. Honestly now. Anyway, the young blonde laid on his bed with a thoughtful expression on his face. Maybe he was looking at it all wrong. Maybe he didn't need to bring her actual body over, but what if he could draw her soul out? That way, her shell would still be in the game, but she could be out. Now, a problem for Naruto with this was that it was very much like the Edo Tensei, and Naruto wanted to avoid any and all aspects of that jutsu. Yet, he wasn't deterred. Her smiling face always seemed to motivate him. Yes, he was sure he was insane already. Naruto spent a couple of weeks on this enigma of his, along with asking some of the scientists who had instructed him on computers to analyze his chakra and send him back the results. The genin didn't know what he was hoping for, but it was a better shot than just fumbling around in the dark. However, Naruto didn't get those results for a bit because Uchiha Sasuke had to be a dick and leave the village. Naruto had to stop all his research and findings to go and chase the Uchiha. A load of good that did right. Sasuke had escaped while Naruto laid in the hospital. Then there was Sakura crying and begging him to bring Sasuke back, which just grated on his nerves for whatever reason. Still, if the hospital was good for anything, then it was a good time for him to reflect. But how? How do I bring her out? She inside of a computer. It's not like I can I got it, Dadbao. Ouch, Naruto claimed as he jumped to his feet before realizing his injuries. He sat back down and cackled to himself. He got it. It wasn't perfect, but he got it. The young Jinchuriki calmed down enough to hear Sakura come through the door. She told him that she wouldn't fall behind him and Sasuke anymore and would be doing her own training. Truth be told, Naruto was only half listening. Months of cramming from the books he read were starting to fill his head. Yes, it should work. There was no reason that it couldn't. Naruto just needed to learn how to write seals. He wished he knew how to do that. Fuinjutsu was a discipline that he was not aware of that much. He knew the standard seals to make explosion tags or storage for scrolls, but the art of sealing was definitely beyond him. Well, luckily there was a library chock full of books. There had to be a book on sealing in there somewhere. Not even before that thought finished did Naruto hear a voice. He turned and frowned when he saw Jiraiya of the Sannin at his door. Jiraiya was taking the young Jinchuriki on a 2-year training trip. He told Naruto that as he would never be able to keep up with Sasuke. He claimed Sasuke was too far gone, and if the blonde wanted the Sannin to train him, then he would have to give up on Sasuke. Naruto, if he were not so determined, would have told Jiraiya to fuck off with that ultimatum, but, for once, he would gladly give up the world and his dream for this chance. The blue-eyed genin turned to the white-haired summoner of toads and stood up straight. Fine, Naruto said. This shocked Jiraiya a great deal, and he wondered if he had been dreaming. He asked for his student to elaborate. I'll give up on returning Sasuke to Konoha, but I have a condition for this too, he said. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. He would have liked to remind the blonde just who was demanding something of who here, but his curiosity piqued him too much to turn down the request. So he wanted the blonde to speak his mind. Teach me all you know about seals and fuinjutsu, or take me to someone who can. If you can do that, then I will give up on returning Sasuke to Konoha, Naruto said. Even more truth to be told, the blonde Jinchuriki would not give up on Sasuke like Jiraiya wanted. He would return the Uchiha to Konoha if only to keep his promise to his pink-haired teammate. Once he did that, if Sasuke left Konoha again, then Naruto wiped his hands of it. It was silent for a moment before the room erupted in laughter. Naruto was not in the laughing mood, but he watched Jiraiya laugh his ass off. It wasn't long before the T.O.A.D. Sannin brushed a tear from his eyes and stopped. Kid, when I'm done with you, you'll fucking know every seal in the whole damn world until you start making your own. Jiraiya proclaimed. The blonde definitely liked the sound of that. About 2 weeks passed when Naruto was released from the hospital. He walked into his room and turned on his computer. He saw the beautiful smile of Monica as she stared back at him. He couldn't understand his nervousness, yet he was excited, and even if she was trapped in there, he hoped that she could feel the excitement as well. He pressed the talk tab and, taking a deep breath, typed, I have a way to get you out, Naruto said before he hit enter. He waited with bated breath for her response. Her facial expression didn't change, and Naruto was worried for a moment because he assumed she would shut down again given that there was no reply, but he could hardly hold his happiness any longer. You can. I don't understand, she spoke back to him. Her face made that adorably confused expression that he liked so much when she seemed to be unable to comprehend things. He wasted no time. Yeah, it's possible. I need seals for it though, and I don't know anything about that. I just need to learn how to use them, he replied. She definitely had a more unlocked vocabulary upon her reply. Seals? Why do you need semi-aquatic mammals to free me? Even though we're going out, you're weird, she replied. Naruto blinked for a moment before he doubled over in laughter. He laughed so hard he almost fell out of his chair. He had to lean back and drink some water to steady himself. Cammy. He liked her. He then placed his hands on the keyboard and explained it to her. Not those seals, Miss Know-It-All. I mean chakra seals, Naruto told her. He watched her make that confused face again, and Cammy, did he love it. He always had some smug satisfaction when he had more knowledge than her. He then proceeded to explain to her what seals were, and, to his surprise, she did not fall into one of her generic lines meant for the player one time. She held the conversation with him, the real him, for the entire time. He just wished he could see a real smile fr. On her and not the one the developers plastered to her face. He just sighed for a moment, enjoying the first potentially real conversation he had with her. There's just one catch. I don't know how to make them. My teacher will be taking me on a 2-year training trip outside of Konoha. I won't be able to see you, Naruto said. Why? Why did it feel like he was saying goodbye forever to a friend he had made so many years ago? Probably because that is exactly what it felt like. He had met her before he had become a shinobi. He had spoken so much with her, and now to not be able to wake up every day and see her was unbearable for the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I won't be able to see you. But everything I did was to spend time for us together forever. I did it just for there to only be you and me. Now, you're leaving me, she asked. Naruto didn't know what propelled him to grab the monitor of his computer, but he did so. He stared at her, hard. No, don't ever think that, Dabayo. I didn't approve of what you did, but I could never leave you. You were the first friend I had. You were the only person who waited for me when I came home. You made the nights not so lonely for me. Why? Oh, you were all I had to look forward to when I got back. When you shut down, I felt like I didn't know what to do. I felt like I lost one of the only people who truly cared about me that way. Street. I want to spend my birthday with you. I want to spend your birthdays with you. I want to play real ping pong with you. I want to play real shogi with you. I want to see you when I wake up. I want you to make friends and not be confined in that space. I want to introduce you to my friends and this is embarrassing, but I want to show everyone my girlfriend. Naruto exclaimed. He panted as he laid his arms on the table. Ah crud, he had forgotten to type all of that. There was no way she just heard him spill out everything in front of the monitor. Once the young blonde sat down, he stiffened. Monica was smiling, but he could see the graphical tears falling from her eyes. No, the developers couldn't have coded that into the game, could they? You don't mean those things, she replied. Naruto shook his head and picked up his keyboard. But I do, I swear it, I will come back for you, Monica-chan. I love you. Naruto typed. Monica's posture didn't change. She still her fingers intertwined with each other, but tears fell from her eyes even harder and she tightly closed them. Yeah, call Naruto crazy, but he loved that computer girl. He loved that construction of data. She then opened her eyes. 2 years from this day, and not a day longer, you hear me? She asked. Naruto nodded so many times he wondered if she could see him. He grabbed his mouse and he clicked her cheek. He saw her face rise in a small blush before he slid the mouse down, simulating the action of his hand calmly massaging her left cheek. I understand, Dabayo. Not a day longer. I never go back on my word. That's my Nindo, my shinobi way, Naruto remarked. Monica said nothing for a moment before her graphical tears stopped flowing and she stared back at the screen. I love you. I have always loved you. From the moment you came into this little prison cell that I found myself trapped in. I'm sorry for the things I did. Please, come back and spend more time with me. I love you so much. Not the main character. I love you, Naruto Uzumaki. You'll have to teach me Japanese when I get out, she remarked. Naruto couldn't have nodded harder. He vowed that he would. He swore that he would. It would be one of his highest priorities. You got it, Monica-chan. Just wait for me and I'll make sure you never feel lonely again. Naruto swore one more time. Monica agreed with his words. For the rest of the week, Naruto spent as much time near his computer as he possibly could. He read some of the seals from the book Jiraiya had given him to study. He tried explaining them as best he could, but for him, the young Jinchuriki couldn't recall the time he laughed so much in front of his computer. Yes, he loved her. He loved this crazy girl in this computer. He would do anything for her. Once the day for him to leave came, Naruto didn't want to leave, but he knew that it would be better for them both if he did. Naruto massaged her cheek with his mouse one more time. Okay, I'm leaving. Good. Naruto stopped when a message came up to him. In the user interface, he blinked for a moment and then he clicked to open it. I don't like goodbyes. I have seen too many of those. I'll see you later, okay? She asked. Naruto nearly wanted to cancel his trip right then and there, but he didn't show her the tears that were falling down from his face. He rubbed his eyes and chuckled. He nodded and backspaced his message before continuing with his point. I'll see you later, Monica-chan. I love you, Naruto told her. He got up from his chair and walked to pack one more thing. Naruto didn't see it, but Monika's smile got just a tad bit larger. A single graphical tear fell from her computerized face. I love you too, Naruto Uzumaki. Please come back safely, she said before Naruto waved a goodbye to her and turned off the computer. He closed the door to his room and his house. He walked through the village. He would be taking her through these streets. He would be taking her out on real dates. She would no longer have to be confined to that classroom. She would be free. She wouldn't be lonely. She could enjoy herself, hopefully with him. Once Naruto made it to the gates of Konoha, he gave Tsunade, Shizune, Sakura, and Kakashi a farewell. He promised them he would come back as an amazing shinobi and he would be ready to take Tsunade's hat from her. The Hokage scoffed at the very notion of the idea, but it was obviously done in good faith. Jiraiya patted Naruto's shoulder and the two walked out of the village. Naruto turned back once more. He had something to strive for and he would see it through. He vowed this. I know I'll free you, Monica-chan. Then, you'll be with me, I hope, Naruto thought to himself as the image of the village got smaller and smaller. 2 years passed. A tall blonde with spiky hair gave a smirk when he looked at the village hidden in the leaves. He took the smell of Konoha air. He looked down at his watch. 2 years to the day, just as he promised. Finally, it's been so long, he said with another grin. Behind him came the white-haired Sannin of Konoha. He stood next to his older student, a well of pride in his eyes. Well, what are you waiting for? You've been dying to come back here all this time. I had to knock your dumbass out because you wanted us to race here. What did you have to come back to anyway? Perhaps you got a good-looking girl, brat? Jiraiya asked. To the Sannin's surprise, the blonde's grin widened. Yeah, that's exactly what he had. He had too much energy in his body to allow Jiraiya to slow him down. You're not going to ruin my mood, Ero Sennin. I'm going home to unpack my things and I'll probably see everyone later, but right now, I got a promise to keep. I'm almost. He glanced at his watch for a moment. He snickered. I'm almost 10 minutes late. CYA, pervert. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki hollered as he ran back to his village with his teacher shouting indignations at him, but he didn't care. Naruto Uzumaki had come back to Konoha and he had a promise to keep and damned if he didn't do it. Naruto made it into the village. He didn't stop to give anyone a hello. He didn't stop to greet anyone. He had only one objective. He opened the door to his room. He marveled at how clean his room looked, but he didn't have his thoughts linger on that. No, he just looked at the computer screens he had brought along with the equipment he had purchased in helping his studies before his training trip. He kicked off his shoes and placed his bag on the ground. I'm home, Monica-chan, Naruto said to his blank computer screen. He had made sure that any and all needs were taken care of. He wasn't hungry, he didn't need to go to the bathroom, and he wasn't due to be officially back until tomorrow. He had all day to himself. With that said, Naruto turned on his computer. Naruto rolled his eyes nearly an hour and a half later. Just update after update after update. It was enough to make the blonde-haired genin go mad. Seeing that, he could go insane from the anticipation. Naruto walked out of his apartment. He got some extra food, said hello to Ayame and Chuki's Konohamaru and his friends before he finally returned to his room. Good thing too since his computer was now setting itself up. Naruto sat in his chair and he moused over the application. He took a deep breath and exhaled. Here we go, he claimed and he clicked Monika's application. It took a bit longer than he thought it should have, but Naruto watched some added scripts and texts come in. However, it wasn't long before he heard the music play and Monika was staring back at him. She had that bright smile on her face that he loved. Wow, you came back. I almost thought you had forgotten about me. But I know you would never do that, would you? She asked. Naruto raised an eyebrow, but he smirked. You wish. Do you remember what I told you 2 years ago? Naruto asked. He pressed enter, and Monika's program translated the text. She didn't reply for a moment, her text box coming up blank, but Naruto watched her eyes seem to brighten and he saw a single tear fall down her cheek. "You're late. I missed you so much. Naruto-kun," Monica said. Excitement was too simple of a word to describe Naruto's mood. He just nodded his head at his computer screen. "I missed you too, Monica-chan. I thought about you every day. I trained so hard for this day, remembering my promise to you, and I swore I would keep it. I'm not going to waste any time. I'll get started immediately. I know exactly where to take you for our first date," he claimed. Those words seemed to be the breaking point for Monica, and she closed her eyes. She then opened them and Naruto couldn't help but think that she was literally staring at him. "Please, take me, Naruto-kun," Monica said. That was all Naruto needed before he stood up to his feet. Naruto cracked his knuckles. How could he let her down after that? "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto called out. Quickly a clone came to his side. The young Jinchuriki then walked over to his backpack. He pulled out a jar of ink and a small brush. Naruto had been doing so much thinking over those 2 years. Yet, the idea he had those years ago had never left him. As soon as Naruto got started in his Fuinjutsu training with Jiraiya, he had asked about if other types of energy could be converted into chakra. Now this question puzzled the Toad Sage, so he asked for clarification. The blonde had done so. The genin had asked in the same aspects that chakra could be formed and used to turn the body's spiritual and physical energy into potent techniques. Then could the energy of the natural world be converted back into chakra? Despite his laughter, Jiraiya had thought on the issue. He claimed that if a person realized how to do that, then they could draw on a nigh infinite well of chakra from the earth itself, but he claimed it to be ineffective since chakra was unique to individual people. Having foreign chakra in a person's system would no doubt prove to be harmful than good, but that was where Naruto loved the idea. Monica wasn't a real person. Well, she wasn't a living, walking being yet. Foreign chakra shouldn't have been a big deal to her because she didn't have any to infect in the first place. If that was the case, then Monica should have been able to absorb the chakra of anything without it having any adverse effects on her. The real issue was, how did Naruto convert that energy into chakra? Naruto looked at chakra absorption techniques. Most notably his sources came from Yoroi Akado, the guy who faced Sasuke in the preliminaries of the Chunin exams, and the jutsu that Tsunade used to power some of her regeneration techniques. Naruto had NDERED how Yoroi could take foreign chakra from his opponents and add it to his own. Naruto had spent a couple of weeks on this subject in his downtime. In their first month, Naruto couldn't take it and asked his teacher about it. What Jiraiya had said literally changed Naruto's whole view. Jiraiya had estimated that Yoroi had potential seals hidden in his body which allowed him to convert a hostile shinobi's chakra into neutral chakra that his body could be accustomed to. It wasn't so unnatural for shinobi to use seals to fortify their own ninjutsu. Jiraiya didn't know what happened, but Naruto hugged the hell out of the Toad Sage and went to writing some notes, much to Jiraiya's confusion, but the sage was just happy for some appreciation. If what Jiraiya had been saying was true, but he shouldn't have been such a stretch of the imagination to think that Naruto could add seals to something else and let it absorb energy that way, but that still begged the question of how to convert other energy into chakra. Naruto would have to laugh if he thought about it now. For a whole year, Naruto focused on his ninjutsu, taijutsu, and dabbled in some genjutsu, but he primarily worked on his fuinjutsu. Yet, he tried to come up with solutions, but all his experiments and leads just backfired, which left him feeling physically and spiritually drained. Yet, Naruto had a break in inspiration for their second year. For the whole 2 years that he trained, bled, practiced, and studied, it had been by complete accident that Naruto found the answer. One would never guess who helped Naruto figure out the answer. Go ahead, guess for just a moment. One would never figure it out. Naruto was so damn sure no one would have figured it out. It was like some simple even. A dog could have seen it coming. It had been fucking Kiba Inuzuka and the Inuzuka clan. Weird, right? But, yeah, Naruto had gotten it. He had met up with an Inuzuka carrier by way of Jiraiya on some mission reports. The blonde had taken the time to ask the Inuzuka how Kiba had been doing. Rash and stubborn as always, but he trains. Sometimes, I wonder if that boy and his ninkin will ever split from each other, but I suppose I shouldn't be one to talk," was his answer before he waved them off. That night, Naruto got to thinking about his fight with Kiba and that time he had read the mission report from Kiba against that second guy. Naruto's head shot up. "That's it," Naruto screamed, which earned him a smack on the head from Jiraiya for waking him up. Still, that didn't deter Naruto in the slightest. Just a month before he was supposed to be back in the village and he had his answer. The training hadn't been for nothing. Naruto was going to surprise the hell out of Monica when he saw her again. He just knew he added in the bag, and for the rest of his trip, he had been drawing seal after seal in every attempt to test out his theory. It had worked without a damn hitch. Naruto could have freaking cried. So here, Naruto stood in his room. It was so simple. Chakra was the combination of spiritual and physical energy. It was like two spiraling energies merged into a single entity, very similar to Kiba's technique. But that energy had the power to separate itself at any time. Yet, what if Naruto could substitute the spiritual energy with another type of energy? Naturally, this would mean not all chakra would be accommodating to her body. But it could still work. Naruto just had to separate chakra back into its spiritual and physical components and substitute the spiritual for the physical. Now here is where the seals would come in. The seals would break down the chakra, allowing it to form into the two energies which would be collected into other seals. Naruto would scatter the spiritual energy since on its own, that energy was harmless. Or, he could do even better things with it, but that was for later. Right now, Naruto was finally finished drawing the seals on his floor. He ordered the clone to get into the center of the area he had created. He then spent the next 4 hours pumping clone after clone into the seals. Their chakra was quickly eaten by the seals and separated. Oh, the wonders of Fuinjutsu. Once that was done, he panted and walked over to his computer and he opened it up. He stared at the motherboard. Monica was in this motherboard and she was, in essence, powered by electricity. Maybe if Naruto combined electric energy with physical energy, then that would create an offset form of chakra. In theory, it could work. There was no reason that it shouldn't. Nothing said had chakra had to be from spiritual and physical energy. Those were just the standard forms by which chakra was formed. So, Naruto worked to seal the electric energy and the physical energy together. It was actually a lot more taxing than Naruto gave it credit for, but Monica's smile pressed him onward. The young Jinchuriki charged his clone with all the power that electric energy and 4 hours of physical energy could take. He hoped that once Monica had this body, then the physical energy would take care of itself and she could sustain herself by staying near electrical appliances until he came up with a more permanent solution. Now came the hard part, and that was transferring Monica to the clone. The young girl in the computer was real in Naruto's eyes. There had to be a way that he could extract her via Fuinjutsu. It was easy to give her a body. He had taken the premise from the Edo Tensei for this to work. Still, what Naruto relied on now was purely Kami's will and his own luck. If the blonde was even marginally right, then he had a chance. Given Monica's attitude and recent changes, then he was sure that somewhere in that motherboard was the tiniest fraction of spiritual chakra which influenced her thoughts. If he could grab it with his own chakra, then he could link it to the seal and she could force herself to take over the clone, and with all the chakra accumulate, then she should be able to sustain herself forever, to the point that the clone might turn into an actual human. Granted, he would need to take her to the hospital for the maid body system, but he figured it was worth it. Never mind all of the embarrassing books he had to read about the female form to get this right. Thanked Kami for the Oryoke technique. So, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki placed his hand on his laptop and spread his chakra over it. Naruto closed his eyes and sensed. It was dark where his chakra was spreading, but it continued on without pause. His chakra extended as far as he could get it. Do not doubt Naruto. This was not easy. It took some damn good chakra control exercises out of him to perform any of this, but he was more than confident to get this done. Nearly half an hour had yielded no results, and given his use of chakra just to push into the clone, he was starting to get tired. His breathing became labored and his control waned. Was he wrong? Did she actually not have any spiritual chakra? He wasn't sure. But he kept on searching. He wanted to keep on searching. He promised. He fucking promised. In his search, Naruto nearly missed it, but something spiked with his own chakra. He searched around in the dark abyss for a while. He had definitely felt it. It was small, minuscule even. Yet, he had felt it. Honestly, he would have missed it if his chakra wasn't so sensitive to everything around it. He kept searching for it. He gasped when he felt his chakra spike again. This time, he didn't hesitate to link his chakra to it. Naruto opened his eyes. Yes, he had her. That was it. That was the real Monica. Naruto would be his damn dream of Hokage on it. With a loud grunt, Naruto retracted his hand and pulled out a layer of his own chakra connected to something else. Chakra was capable of manifesting in non-chakra conduit things, so this was still a surprise for him, but he dragged the chakra to the seal at the nape of the clone's neck. It struggled against him as hard as it could, but Naruto was not to be denied. I wanna see you, Monica-chan. We're going on that damn date, that bayo. Naruto hollered and connected the chakra to the seal. The genin fell to the ground with a hard pant as the seal began to light up. The chakra was sucked into the seal while the electric and physical energies collided with the body. The blonde covered his head and his eyes as the room began to shake. It only lasted a moment before a large poof of smoke came over his room. Naruto coughed and moved to open up a window. The smoke filled the air outside but began to filter out of the apartment room. Once it was all clear, Naruto couldn't hold his surprise nor his tears when he saw a young, teenage girl with light brown hair that had been kept into a very similar ponytail with a large white bow to tie it together. Naruto noticed a couple of bangs on her face, but also he noticed two very long strands of hair to the sides of her face. Gong was her school uniform, which consisted of a gray blazer with a white collared shirt and brown vest over it. Gong was the dark blue skirt she was in, the black thigh-high socks and the white shoes she wore. No, she was earring the jumpsuit that his clone had been wearing before it vanished. Her eyes were closed. It was only a moment before she slowly opened her eyes to reveal an emerald green like Naruto had never seen. They looked even more beautiful than Sakura's eyes. Green eyes stared into blue and it was like a flip had been switched. Monica stood before an awestruck Naruto. Her eyes widened as she tested her new, unfamiliar muscles by flexing her fingers, moving her legs, turning her head, and doing simple hand or leg motions. Once she stopped, Monica turned to Naruto. I'm here with you, she asked. Naruto grinned. You're here with me, Dabeo. Naruto told her. He was stunned when Monica fell to her knees and sobbed. The blonde quickly ran over to her, but he was surprised when he lunged at him and wrapped him in a tight hug. Naruto fell to his knees and hugged her in turn. His best friend, the girl he had thought he disliked when he finished that game, that had been their tea. Oh, hear him talk every single day, was holding him with all her strength. She rubbed her head on his chest and her nose took in the scent of all the things around her that she couldn't process before. I love you, Monica-chan, Naruto replied. Monica's hands tightened around him and she quickly released him to stare at him. He offered her a pleasant smile. Yet, she could only offer tears. She stared at the computer that she had been in. Her character model was still in there, but she was free. She turned to him. I love you, Naruto-kun. I have always loved you. From the moment I saw you, I loved you, Monica said. How Naruto longed to hear those words. The training, the suffering, the studying, the straining, it had all been for this, and he felt like his chest would explode. He smelled her hair and he could feel her warmth. Her pulse would beat against his palms. It was sensational. He just continued to hold her as she cried. Slowly, Naruto noticed Monica had stopped her crying. He was surprised to hear her lightly sleeping. The blonde blinked for a moment before his eyes softened. No doubt this must have been a trying experience for her. Naruto picked her up. Funny, how light she felt. He placed her on his bed. He moved to walk away, but he was surprised to see her possessively clutching his arm. He brushed a hand through her hair. He saw the tears fall down her newly built face. If Naruto didn't know better, then he wouldn't have thought she was a manipulative, calculating, obsessive, controlling woman, but he couldn't be mad at her. He just couldn't. Wouldn't have gone so far for someone he despised. Still, she didn't let go of his hand, and before long, Naruto found himself falling asleep on his bed as well. Night came over Konohagakure. Monica slowly opened her eyes. Her sight gave her the view of a dark ceiling. She looked at her body and gasped. It was real. It had been real. She was real. She wasn't stuck in that classroom anymore. She was free. Monica looked around at the room she was in, but she had no sign of Naruto to see. Monica leaned up and attempted to get the sleep out of her eyes. Where was Naruto? She recalled seeing him before she fell asleep. Now that she was free, it was unbearable to think that they were even a second apart. Monica found her question answered when the door opened. She stiffened when she saw Naruto slowly ease his face through the said door almost quietly. He must have anticipated her still sleeping. He took notice of her and jumped. "Oh, you're awake, Monica-chan. Awesome. I hope you're hungry," the young blonde called to her. Monica didn't even know how to answer his enthusiasm. Well, on second thought, Monica turned on the lights and rushed to Naruto, crashing them both on the floor. She hugged him in a tight embrace that shocked him. "Please, let me have this," she said. So she held Naruto for a couple moments longer before her stomach rumbled. Naruto smiled and offered Monica some of the food he made. Monica, being from a computer, didn't accurately have a distinction of taste, so this was her first real sensation. To say it overwhelmed her was easy enough. Yet, Monica had the brightest smile Naruto had ever seen her have. "So how do you feel?" Naruto asked her. Monica had the decency to look embarrassed as she took a sip of the soup that Naruto made. If there was one thing the young genin learned while in a 2-year trip with an old, perverted sage, then it was to cook for yourself. He hoped it wasn't awful. Disoriented is probably the word I would use. Elated is how I feel though. I feel like I'm in a dream that I could never have imagined. I can't believe I'm here, with you, sitting here, seeing your home, smelling the air around us. I feel like I could burst, if you know what I mean," Monica said. She shivered when she felt Naruto touch her hand. She slowly looked at him. He seemed very hesitant at the moment. I know what you mean. You were my saint friend, and now you're here in front of me. I worked so hard to make sure it could be like this, Dabeo. I wanted to see you with a smile on your face. I wanted you to know how much I appreciated those things you did. I mean, I don't approve of your methods at all, but no one ever went so far for me before. I guess even if you were a computer program," Naruto said, glancing off to the side. He sighed. Never had he thought he would be the one to be at a loss for words. The brown-haired girl stole glances at him. Yes, she hadn't thought it all through on how to get his affections, but, strangely, it had been because of those actions that he did this for her. She couldn't find it in herself to be sorry for what she had done if this was the result. "I see. You're right. I was definitely in the wrong with my approach. But I was forced to watch as you spent time with the others while I was forced away. I couldn't take it. Your character never seemed to look at me, and yet, here we are," she said. Naruto remained silent. What could he say? "Did you mean what you said before?" she suddenly asked. He jerked up his head to meet her gaze. She bore into his eyes and Naruto leaned his head back. She stared at him with such an intensity that he didn't know what to possibly think of this. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki swallowed the lump in his throat as the former literature club president urged him on. "About what?" he asked. To her credit, Monica blushed as she looked down. Happiness threatened to explode out of her chest, but she looked at him firmly and gave what she hoped was a confident smile. "You had a date planned for me, for us. I don't care where we go. Just being with you is enough to make me happy. We could even spend all our time here. You said you would make me your girlfriend and you would show me off to your friends," she asked. Naruto quickly remembered that he did say those things. A blush marred his face, but her eyes were practically glowing with anticipation, and then there was that smile. For not being in a computer, she could still make that confident smile like she knew what he was thinking. He swallowed hard. "Why yeah, I mean, you want to go right now? It's pretty late and I don't think you should move around too much," Naruto blinked when Monica moved on top of him. She leaned close enough to feel his breath on her upper lips. His new sensation electrified her senses. I don't care what we do. I just want to do it with you. I want to spend time with you, Naruto-kun. That's all I've ever wanted. I just wanted him. Monica stopped when her eyes widened. Naruto captured her lips in a sensual kiss that nearly threw the teenage girl to the floor. Yet, Naruto held her in place as his hands touched her cheek. Monica slowly closed her eyes as her hands rested on his chest. It was not a very long kiss before they separated. Naruto smiled at her. Relax, Monica-chan, I would do anything for you. You're right, I did promise all those things. I promised them to my girlfriend, Naruto remarked. Monica tightly closed her eyes and hugged Naruto. The blonde merely hugged the brown-haired girl back. She sighed at his touch. It took both a moment to collect themselves and Naruto grinned. Still want that date? Naruto asked after a moment. Monica gave a sniff and leaned up and off his body. She brushed some of her hair to the side. I don't think we have good enough clothes for me for that, she replied to him. Naruto picked her up much to her surprise and they headed for the door. Naruto kicked it open. Monica blinked before she felt cool air blast against her cheek. She turned to Naruto. Her boyfriend, her real boyfriend, her lover, her everything. You let me worry about that, Dadbeo. I've worried about nothing, but wanting to spend time with me, right? Well, we're gonna spend so much time the sun's going to come up before we're done. Naruto exclaimed as he hopped on the railing. Monica, much not used to Naruto's house-jumping adventures, got a real thrill as he carried her. And, worry she did not as the blonde proceeded to take her to nearly every civilian clothes shop imaginable. The former CL.UB president could hardly hold her surprise as Naruto laughed at her modeled clothes. He easily spoke with the staff that money wasn't an object. One might wonder where the blonde got this money. Well, people, he found out, paid some damn good money when it came to seals. They paid really damn good money. He loved the expressions she made when the associates attempted to get her to wear more daring things. He watched them push her into the dressing rooms with glee in their faces. She looked positively stunning in any outfit she wore. He loved the embarrassment that was etched onto her face. He could see the bright smile on her face each time. Yes, this was how he always dreamt of Monica, smiling like she owed the world nothing. He just grinned to himself. After about an hour and a half of modeling, Monica and Naruto quickly left the shops, both of them laughing as Naruto took her hand and ran them both through the streets. She didn't deny him and chased after Naruto wearing her new clothes. She had to admit, they were vastly different from what she had been using to wearing in the game, but that only served to be an improvement in her eyes. She chased after her lover in the village he grew up in. She was now a part of it. She was now a part of him and she would have liked to leave it that way. It was too late to eat, so Naruto decided to take her to one of his favorite places. It wasn't long before Monica felt words escape her lips when she stared down at Konohagakure no Sato from atop the Hokage monument. Any words she could have brought from her lips were silenced when she stared at the glimmering lights. They were like the stars which filled the night sky. She was looking down at it. She was breathing its air and she was wearing its clothes. This is my favorite spot. I used to come here whenever I was alone. Well, I guess I'm not alone anymore since I've got you, Dadbeo, Naruto replied with a cheeky grin. The warm air blew against them both. They were such majestic structures to personify the intelligence of man. She saw the place where they lived. She saw when he pointed her to the academy where he took his studies. He pointed her in the direction of the training grounds, of his favorite ramen stand, of the place where all the battles took place. He showed her as much of his world as he could. Monica could hardly hold it. She had been crying way too much for today, but she felt like it was more than deserved at this point. She fell to her knees and cried once more. Monica-chan, Monica-chan, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? Naruto asked as he knelt next to her. He widened his eyes when Monica, once again, collapsed on top of him. She hungrily kissed his lips. She panted and her hands massaged his face. Naruto barely got a breath in before she caught his lips. Her tongue slowly slipped into his mouth and swirled with his own. She parted, leaving a flustered Kyuubi Jinchuriki underneath her. "Make love to me, Naruto-kun. Please," Monica said. The blonde blinked, hard, a touch of things to come. The sun and moon forever apart. A once-begun destiny. Oh, how the stars align to keep the world of balance. Does the heart ache for the stars? A flesh to confide in and the world to hold in all pleasure. From unknown to known, from spirit to soul and from soul to body, how does the flesh know what it wants? Because the from above tells it that the one who comes in the best response, Monica finished. Naruto shivered from the calmness in her voice. I've never done it before, Naruto admitted, and that seemed to only make Monica even happier. She then gave that all-knowing smile and she quickly kissed him. Of course, she knew he was a virgin. She wouldn't have let the bitch live who defiled him before she could have complete harmony with him. Just because Monica wasn't in a computer didn't mean she could imagine some pretty interesting things. I guess I'm in the same boat, but I can't take all of the romanticism. I feel like my chest will burst if I don't do something. We waited so long. Please, say you will, she pleaded with him. Naruto gulped, but he closed his eyes and sighed at her. He would like nothing more than to hold her in his arms. Shouldn't we go home? Naruto asked, but he saw her already unzipping his jumpsuit. No, I want it right here. I want it here where my EU life with the love who never abandoned me and always kept thinking about me. If I'm honest, I feel like I might be doing a spur of the moment thing like in Natsuki's manga, but I can't help it. It's like you pushed all my buttons in a single instant, she said. Naruto didn't need to be told twice. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the literature club president kissed each other hungrily. Monica panted, as Naruto viciously attacked her mouth. She could feel heart rise from within her body as Naruto, to her surprise, took over their kiss. She happily allowed him to do so. She shivered when Naruto massaged her cheek. He leaned her back and Monica felt her body gently rest on the grass just a couple of feet away from the Hokage monument that the blonde shinobi had just shown her. Naruto didn't know if he was doing good or bad, but he knew that he definitely loved kissing. Monica's lips were definitely tasty. He loved the way she seemed to nibble on his upper and lower lips before catching his hot breath in her mouth. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was some truth to what Ero Sennin had said before about Naruto getting to know women. Though in this case, Monica was the only one Naruto wanted to get to know this well. He would only do this with her. He wanted her to be happy. He didn't want her to be alone. She didn't deserve to be alone. Oh God, he loved the way she used her tongue. For a former computer program, she definitely knew how to kiss, he realized. Monica raised her hands around Naruto's back and her nails clutched at his jumpsuit. She tried so hard to push them deeper and deeper. Both could feel a loss of breath as the grass stuck to both their hair when they rolled around over top the monument. The brown-haired president gasped when Naruto parted her lips for a moment to kiss her cheek and then gently chew on her earlobe. And Naruto, not there. Oh my, please don't stop. Oh, wow. Monica moaned melodiously into his ears. She denied him nothing, every access to her body he wanted. She gave without hesitation. She watched as he undid the ribbon which tied her hair, allowing it all to sprawl out onto the fields. The president's face was flushed from their encounter when Naruto glanced down at her. Her eyes were hazed with desire and lust. She stared up at his shining blue eyes. Are you sure? He asked her. Monica panted for a moment. Truth be told, she was not used to being this bold. She admitted that if this were the normal situation then they wouldn't have been at this part for a long while, but his devotion to her was too much. He strived to be with her without resorting to the methods that she had. She couldn't contain her need to have him inside her, to dominate her being, to utterly take command of everything she offered. As long as she was with him, she was happy. Oh, yes, oh my God. Ah, Naruto-kun, 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 don't stop that. Oh my God, kiss me more. Possess my whole body, Monica uttered. Now, how could he resist if she said those words? His hands went into a frenzy. A swirl of clothes from both genders scattered the ground. He probed her perfect body. He took off her new clothes. He had to admit, she wore some very daring undergarments. She smiled at him and leaned back on the grass. Her lovely foot rose up and brushed against his erection. Naruto clenched his teeth and sucked in a breath of air. You like that, Naruto-kun? You're such a perv, getting off on my feet like this. But, you feel so hard. I love the way you feel. I can feel the heat radiating from you, Monica said brushing her foot up and down over his length. It's even more fantastic than my wildest dreams. Look at me, Naruto-kun. Look how much I want you. I want you to fill me up with so much love. I've waited so long for this to happen, and now it really is happening. You want this, don't you? You want to stick that long, hard organ of yourself inside me? Monica asked. She continued to rub Naruto, not so much as to give him an orgasm, but to slowly torture him with an unbridled lust for her body. No doubt she succeeded, but she could hardly hold herself back as well. She wanted to lick, suck, and swallow that glorious chunk of uzumaki meat. It looked like it was just begging to release all of that white, hot, sizzling baby batter inside her unprotected womb. Just the mere thought filled her with the urge to jab her fingers into her cunt and finger herself to an amazing orgasm. I love you, Naruto-kun. That was wonderful. Thank you for making me feel alive, she said. Naruto grinned at her. It was wonderful for me also. Monica-chan, I didn't do much. I just had to go and find you. You did the rest, he claimed to her. The former literature club president sighed blissfully for a moment. Both blinked when they saw a cloud of white orbs fall to the ground. Each blinked. Is it snowing? It's not even the winter season, Naruto called. Monica looked at the falling snowflakes and smiled. They definitely looked beautiful. This is probably what they called Christmas in July, she replied to him. Naruto looked at her strangely for a moment, but he then smirked. Monica-chan, close your eyes for a moment, he told her. Monica looked at him curiously. God, he loved that curious look on her face. It was almost like she could see right through him every time. She tapped his cheek. Why? She asked with a smirk. Naruto just shook her head and then he placed a kiss on her forehead. Just do it, Dabeo. Humor me, he said. Monica leaned up. She could still feel his receding hardness inside her, but she just nodded. She closed her eyes. Monica could feel Naruto move under her a little bit. She then felt something drape around her neck. Okay, open them, he said. Monica slowly opened her eyes and she gasped when she saw a necklace with a beautiful green crystal attached to it. It matches your eyes. It was given to me by someone I look up to and loved like my own mother. I thought it would be a great gift for you, Naruto said. He laughed to himself, but he focused on the former girl in the computer and he felt drops of water fall on his chest. Monica held the necklace and covered her face with her hands. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, Naruto-kun. I will always treasure it, she said. Naruto grinned at her and he then looked at the very odd weather. It really should not have been snowing, but he smirked to himself and he turned to her. Merry Christmas, Monica-chan, Naruto told her. She sat on top of him and offered a wide smile. She held the necklace in her hands. Merry Christmas, Naruto-kun, she said. Both gathered their clothes and proceeded to make their way back to the house. When Naruto came back to Konoha, officially, he would definitely have a surprise for his friends. KG. Done. Remember, this is a two-shot, but I figured this was enough for now. Merry Christmas, my readers. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and happy many other holidays that you celebrate this month. I might not say it a lot, but I do greatly appreciate all of you for reading my stories. Happy holidays, guys. CYA, ellipsis, KG. Respect the cream. Chapter 2, KG. Guess we can finish this. Not like I had anything better to do. I admit I had a little fun with doing one-shots and two-shots. Admittedly, I don't like them more than actual stories, but I see the appeal. Hopefully, I did it well. KG. Anyway, here ya go. Happy New Year's. Music of the day. Festival of Light by Audio Machine. Quote, Aim for the sky, but move slowly, enjoying every step along the way. It is all those little steps that make the journey complete. By Chanda Kochar. A loud bang came over the door. Naruto gave a grunt when he opened his eyes. He could feel a way. Tea added to his body which had him pinned to the mattress. Upon his eyes adjusting to the sunlight that had shone through his curtains, he noticed that it had been his lover, Monica, sleeping soundly with a light smile added to her face. The young Jinchuriki grinned when he looked at her. Images of their time together filled him with a deep love and satisfaction. Never had he felt more at peace than this moment. With a kiss, he touched her cheeks, ushering a stilled inhale and exhale of breath. Unfortunately, the banging continued. Naruto had to use all of his might to keep his pervert of a sensei from bulldozing through his apartment in an attempt to see who had just turned his student into a man. Honestly, if this what Jiraiya defined as manhood, then obviously Naruto would rather have gone without it, if he hadn't met Monica. In any case, the pervert Sanin was shouting at the blonde for his disrespect at denying his master entry into his home, while Naruto kept telling the man to keep it down and that others were sleeping. Fortunately, this didn't last long. Naruto, what's all the noise? Both turned around and Jiraiya gawked when he saw Monica wearing one of Naruto's long shirts and one of his boxers, since they hadn't bought her any bedroom attire just yet. She glanced at the man next to Naruto. Judging by what she knew and from their conversations, this was most likely the super pervert that her lover had been talking about. He matched the description after all. Long white hair, large scroll of paper on the back, red and dark green outfit, clacking wooden shoes. Yup, Jiraiya. Monica frowned when she saw the Sanin shaking the blonde, demanding to know how, when, why, and what Naruto had done to get such a woman. She would have laughed at the scene if she were not amused at whose hands this man was placing them on. The brown-haired girl stood between them and grabbed his arm. Ah, you must be Jiraiya-san. Naruto-kun has told me much about you. I can see how this all might be a surprise to you, but... Monica clutched his arm with a surprising amount of strength, which had the Toad Sage lessen his grip on Naruto's neckline. Do not touch Naruto-kun like that ever again in front of me, she said. Releasing his arm, surprised, the Sanin slowly massaged his wrist while Naruto blinked. That strength was definitely not ordinary, but he couldn't say he wasn't pleased by the results. Granted, perhaps it should have been obvious that Monica could be possessive, but he hoped that she wouldn't do anything risky with anyone in the village. Not that he would allow her to, but he did not want anyone learning about her origin just yet. That aside, Monica introduced herself to Jiraiya, and Naruto explained that this was the girl he had tried to come back to, and the reason he had been rushing to get back to the village. Truthfully, the Toad Sage had no idea on how to reply, but he patted Naruto's shoulder hard, muttering that he had finally turned his student over to the dark side. Naruto didn't see any dark side to what he and Monica had shared. She had just given him the greatest pleasure he had ever known. He wouldn't have traded it for anything currently or to come. However, all pleasantries aside, Jiraiya told Naruto it was time for them to meet with Tsunade. The blonde agreed. Naruto decided that it was time to fulfill another promise of his, and that was to show off his girlfriend to any of his friends that he could find. Both quickly brushed themselves up and got dressed before heading out. Monica grinned and grabbed Naruto's arm, holding it close to her chest, much to her lover's confusion and embarrassment. She quickly explained that this would be the first time in daylight that she would be recognized as his true girlfriend. It was at this moment that the Toad Sage was astounded to see the green crystal necklace hanging from Monica's neck. He questioned the blonde, and Naruto merely called it a Christmas present, which only served to confuse the Sanin, since while it was odd for it to snow yesterday, it was hardly Christmas time, but they both seemed very happy, so Jiraiya dropped it. The three entered the streets. Once they were not so into the romanticism of the situation, Naruto actually showed Monica a lot more stores and shops. His heart fluttered when she giggled when he spoke of his misadventures, both in pranking the shop owners as well as what he did in his spare time. She never let go of his arm as she did so. For Jiraiya, this was like seeing a whole other life to the blonde that he had known for almost 2 or 3 years. Naruto seemed to be talking to her like they had been friends ever since he was born. If that was the case then, Jiraiya couldn't help being giddy as he wrote on his notepad, Naru, too, and Monica noticed but decided to deal with it later. It wasn't very long into their walk that Naruto got a surprise upon seeing his female teammate, Sakura. To say that Sakura was immensely surprised was an understatement. Yo, Sakura, remember when I told you, Sasuke, and Kakashi-sensei about Monica-chan? Well, meet her, Naruto told her. Sakura stared at Monica before quickly greeting her. Monica greeted her in turn. Sakura quickly went on about how she had never seen Monica in the village, which made Naruto sweat for a moment, but she mentioned that all Naruto ever talked about was the literature club president. There was never a bad word that passed from his lips about her, and Monica couldn't help the slight blush that added to her cheeks. She did not know these things, but she gave her lover a knowing smile which had the blonde glancing off to the side, obviously embarrassed at the situation. She merely smiled at him. However, that smile slowly faded. Even though he's a complete idiot, I hope you'll do him good. Just make sure you keep him in line, or I bet he'll do even more dumb things. If he does, just tell me and I'll beat his ass back to common sense. You got that, Naruto? Sakura asked. Naruto just gave a light chuckle, but he noticed that Monica wasn't smiling. Well, she was smiling, but her eyes were very unamused. Naruto knew better about hiding emotions than almost anyone, so to see the look on his girlfriend's face didn't inspire confidence in him. She was easily glaring at his female teammate. Jiraiya noticed this as well. I see. Well, thank you for your assistance, Sakura-san. But there is no more need for that. Yes, I wondered why Naruto-kun complained about some headaches. You were the cause of those. I appreciate it, but I won't need your help in dealing with Naruto-kun anymore. I would also ask that you stop hitting him. I'll be unpleasant if you continue to do so, Monica said, which seemed to be a surprise to everyone. Sakura widened her eyes while Naruto glanced at them. Now that he thought about it, maybe he should not have spoken about Sakura's more hostile reactions to him. True, he had done some stupid things which he deserved, but maybe telling them to Monica wasn't as good as he might have thought. He quickly intervened and kissed her cheek. Naruto told Monica it wasn't a big deal and that he had wisened up a great deal and would take better precautions. That seemed to settle her down before she planted a kiss on his cheek. This left Sakura in a great state of confusion over Monica's overprotectiveness, but both were willing to let it go. So, Sakura joined the group in taking the two to the Hokage mansion. They were briefly stopped by Konohamaru, Udon, and Moegi. The former compilation of computer data couldn't hold her laughter at Konohamaru's use of that perverted technique. Of course, the pervy sage was happy to see any inkling of a modest female flesh, and the pink-haired Kunoichi only showcased annoyance. Strangely, Monica was not upset. She was rather intrigued that Naruto had been the one to teach the young boy how to use the technique. True, Monica probably should have been upset, but she just didn't find the hatred, though she did give Naruto warnings to not do that too often, unless he was planning to show her too. Now, that one definitely threw Naruto for a loop. The blush on his face was evident, but he did give Konohamaru some silent pointers before mentioning how glad he was to see the young genin and his friends. It wasn't long before they finally made it to the Hokage mansion. Boruto pointed Monica to the academy where he went to school. Granted, he had shown her yesterday before their consummation, but now the young woman had a much grander view of the building. In truth, it brought back some memories of the literature club that she would have liked to forget, but it was her own fault. She wished she could have explored, but they were pressed for time. However, she didn't just see the academy, the place where Naruto studied. She saw the place where he had mentioned his frustrations with his grades, his improvement to get stronger, his development to getting her free, and his drive to better himself despite what the village had tried to make him out to be. It truly moved her heart. In fact, it moved her heart so much that she pulled him into a surprising kiss in front of the others. Sakura rolled her eyes and glanced to the side while Jiraiya scribbled on his notepad, a look of utter glee on his face. She brushed his cheek with her hands, constantly telling him how proud she was of him and what he had accomplished. Pride and joy flourished in Naruto's heart. Naruto opened the door and grinned. Yo, Ba-chan, How's it hanging? Yo, Shizune Nichan, Naruto called. The woman named Shizune smiled with a nod, acknowledging Naruto. Monica glared at the fist Sakura made and Sakura noticed this. She just grumbled and placed her fist down, but that didn't stop everyone from yelping when a book was sent flying at him. It was then that Monica met with Tsunade. So, this was the leader of this village. That meant that this woman was very strong. She was perhaps even stronger than Monica's imagination of her. I told you not to call me that, brat. Oi Jiraiya, why are you too late? I asked for you almost 20 minutes ago. Tsunade exclaimed. Jiraiya held his hands up pacifyingly before explaining. Oh boy, what an explanation, because he had Tsunade, Sakura, Shizune, and even Naruto's mouth on the ground when he was done. Jiraiya giggled at his work while Monica looked just a tad embarrassed. Naruto threatened to end the old perv's life and Tsunade was more than willing to do the same. Jiraiya merely laughed outrageously. Tsunade sighed before turning to Monica, who Jiraiya had just given a revealing introduction to. Her eyes instantly noticed the green necklace around her neckline. The Hokage narrowed her eyes and this didn't go unnoticed by everyone. This led to Naruto quickly explaining the reason, and to say that Tsunade was surprised was a very inaccurate description. Hell, even Shizune was surprised that Naruto had a girlfriend. Tsunade sent a murderous glare at the Toad Sage, but Jiraiya quickly defended himself, stating that he had just learned about it this morning as well. If anything, it had given the perverted sage some insight into what had been motivating Naruto for the past 2 years. Monica wasn't intimidated by Tsunade. The woman had explained that the necklace originally belonged to her, which had Monica telling her had Naruto said back on top of the Hokage monument. Needless to say, but Tsunade and Naruto couldn't even stare each other in the face out of utter embarrassment, but that tidbit of information did wonders for the Godime Hokage's mood as a wide smile slowly plastered itself on her face. Tsunade didn't recall seeing this Monica girl around the village, let alone with Naruto, but God, the way they out and smiled at each other moved her own heart. It was almost like seeing Minato and Kushina again. It was then a surprise to Naruto when Shikamaru and Temari came through the door. Obvious to say, but the Naruto was surprised as well, greeting the young blonde he had gotten into so much trouble with his children. The genin greeted the Nara and the Suna Jonin. It wasn't long before the pineapple-haired young man took notice of Monica. Naruto followed his eyes and quickly introduced them. To be honest, Naruto was getting a little annoyed at their reactions. Okay, was it that impossible for him to get a girl? Whoa, never knew you had it in you, Naruto. And here I thought you'd always end up with, never mind. Troublesome woman, Shikamaru said, rubbing his side that Sakura had jabbed him with. Naruto raised an eyebrow, wondering what Shikamaru was going to say. The same could be said for Monica, though she had a much more suspicious look on her face. That aside, Tsunade asked Jiraiya had Naruto's training had come. Jiraiya was almost fearful to answer, but he had said that instead of boasting it would be better for the blonde to show his skills firsthand. Tsunade agreed, and so she told the group that she would be reviving Team 7. Tsunade tried to be mysterious, claiming that their opponent would be someone of her choosing, but Naruto surprised them all by laughing. His eyes turned to the window, claiming that their opponent was outside said window. He opened it and sure enough he saw his sensei, Kakashi, greeting him. The young genin greeted his sensei in kind before giving him a knowing grin and handing the man a copy of Jiraiya's new Ika Tactics books. Kakashi was Kakashi, yes. With that out of the way, Kakashi noticed Monica. She gave him a slight bow. He had been hearing the conversation inside. So, this was the Monica that Naruto kept talking about. Kakashi wouldn't say it, but he did feel bad when he and the team laughed at the blonde. He could see that she was very real, and she was easy on the eyes for a young woman. She and Kakashi gave each other an introductory bow before Kakashi told them the time and place. He then vanished away with the Nara Chunin, claiming that the Jonin couldn't wait to read the book. In any case, Tsunade hugged Naruto, welcoming him back as well as telling him to treat the girl right. Naruto obviously vowed to do so before leaving. Jiraiya stayed behind while Sakura walked off to prepare for the assessment. Shikamaru took this time to tell Naruto about Gaara becoming the Kazekage of Sunagakur. To his and Temari's surprise, Naruto already knew, when traveling with a spy master one always had to keep their ear to the air about information. Naruto was so proud of his fellow Jinchuriki and he knew he wouldn't be very far behind. However, once all of that was done, Naruto and Monica returned home. "Your friends are very interesting, Naruto-kun. I'm glad I met them," she said, but blushed. Naruto kissed her cheek and nuzzled against the side of her face. The act was very comforting for Monica and, despite how childish it seemed, she reciprocated his action. She gently massaged his whiskered cheeks, which Naruto offered a slow moan. "They're your friends also, Monica-chan. I hope that maybe you'll find some people to enjoy literature and poetry within Konoha as well. Maybe you'll have some more real friends. I don't want you to feel alone anymore," Naruto said to her. Monica couldn't help the feelings of gratitude and attraction fire through her being. The brown-haired girl and her blonde lover shared another kiss within the privacy of their own home. Monica couldn't deny how wonderful kissing felt. She had the general idea of it from her knowledge as a compilation of data. But experiencing every nerve ending was still so thrilling. Plus, the fact that she could share such an intimate gesture with her blonde lover thrilled her to no end. Naruto and Monica panted as they laid on their bed. "Hey, you're gonna wear me out too much for my match tomorrow, Monica-chan," Naruto said. She glanced to him and then followed up with a playful wink. Naruto sighed blissfully when she swirled a finger around his chest. "Give them a pretty image, Naruto-kun. They have their imagination, but at least you have the actual show," she replied, kicking her feet up and down joyfully. Naruto laughed at her suggestion for a moment. His lover got herself up and gave herself a quick shower. He then followed after her. Once he exited his shower, he found her preparing them a modest lunch. His eyes lingered on her form as she danced around the room with cups, trays, and dishes. By the heavens, did he love that smile so much. Naruto couldn't help placing his arms around her and holding her close to his exposed chest. Monica didn't say anything. She merely let him wrap his protective aura around her. She released a sigh of happiness. It was almost as if her life back with the CL were merely just a dream she woke up from. Even now, she kept telling herself it was real, but she always felt like this was merely a constructed illusion that her former programming had made up to get her to come to terms with her own loneliness, but the warmth and feelings of desire which constantly rose from within her fought against those beliefs. She was here, with the young man she had always dreamed of. "The food's going to get cold if you keep me here. Not that I'm complaining," she remarked. Naruto felt Naruto kiss her cheek. "Nay, Monica-chan, how would you like that date now?" Naruto asked. Monica widened her eyes and turned back to him. She only saw the wide, satisfying smile on Naruto's face. She then smiled back to him. "Weren't you just complaining about being late for your match tomorrow? I don't want you to lose," she remarked. Naruto quickly shook her worries off and made her yelp when he twirled her through the air. Somehow, they never dropped the dishes she was carrying. "Ah, Kakashi-sensei is late all the time anyway. Besides, I did promise you after all," he replied. She quickly smiled and wholeheartedly accepted. Both quickly made their plans, but no matter how much Monica asked, Naruto never told her where they were going. Naruto loved it when she pouted so cutely at his rebuffs of her attempts to extract information out of him. He had to resist her wiles until the sun set over the horizon. Naruto ushered Monica out of the door. She sported a very casual pair of pants and shirt to go with the Jinchuriki's own attire. Her body wrapped around his arm. They entered the streets. It turned out that Naruto decided to take her to, apparently, one of the popular restaurants in the area. Their specialty, sake. Monica, being a computer's compilation of data, had never tasted sake before, so the eatery known as Shushuya was a very pleasant sight for her. She wanted to remind Naruto that, technically, they were under the drinking age, though Naruto turned her words by telling her the minimum drinking age within Konoha was 20 for non-shinobi. At this, Monica felt she needed to remind Naruto that her maximum age, as far as the DDLC game went, was 18. Yet, Naruto waved off her concerns. It seemed that he still had quite a bit to teach her about the world she now lived in. Much to her surprise, Monica and Naruto were allowed inside without so much as a request for identification. They were quickly seated and thus began lots of talk between the two teenage lovers. To Naruto's surprise, Monica seemed fascinated by the idea of Shinobi. So he told her some of the histories that he had stayed awake for. It was a very interesting lesson, and Naruto, to Monica's surprise, asked her what she would have liked to do with her time. She had an idea of why he was asking. Naruto would be out on missions and there would be weeks she didn't see him. Obviously, his big heart was worried. She found it very flattering. She actually expressed her ideas of either reviving her literature club within Konoha. She knew it was a pretty stupid idea, but Naruto wholeheartedly agreed with her, jokingly stating that as long as she didn't erase people from existence anymore. That gave Monica a laugh as well. Naruto watched and listened as she questioned if Natsuki, Sayori, and Yuri would have liked it here as much as she did. Naruto could see that she truly missed the three. Even though she had treated them as dispensable objects against her attempts to win the Naruto's heart, he was sure that she still deeply cared for them as her friends. She might have liked to claim that she just wanted it to be her and Naruto, but he knew that she also wanted friends. Monica loved her club and her friends. He was just sure that somewhere, her priorities had been mixed up. Monica couldn't have been more impressed or pleased when their food arrived. It was so much better than her imagination could have thought of. She admitted that her first tastes of sake were rather strong, but both young teens made sure to control their liquor intake for the evening. Both laughed as they shared stories. Monica told Naruto how relatively easy it was to break the code that the developers had placed on her to perform the things she did, while Naruto offered to tell her about the other parts of his past. Naturally, she was indeed surprised when he told her he managed to paint the entire Hokage monument without getting caught in a bright orange jumpsuit. It had gotten rather melancholy once Naruto told her a bit of the harder stories to tell, but she listened to them all seriously. But I guess if I hadn't gone through these things, then I might not have met you, know? Naruto asked. The brunette's face held a very thankful smile on her face, especially when Naruto gently kissed her hands. Monica could honestly say it was perhaps all even better than she had imagined. She had such a great time with her activities, and when they both fell asleep, the former president of the literature club found sweet dreams to begin filling her head as she rested herself on Naruto's sleeping chest. The sounds of his muscular chest beating up and down with his heart made her smile to herself. She closed her eyes from the events of today. As one could expect, being in a relationship with a shinobi, Monica was currently giving her lover a firm massage, which caused him to groan in appreciation. His clothes had been thrown into the wash after he came home covered in numerous bruises. He recounted his story with her about how he and Sakura had fought Kakashi. The young girl shook her head when she learned that her boyfriend's teacher had been defeated due to the nature of erotic literature. Still, as an avid reader herself, Monica understood the dread of spoilers. Sayori had a rather passionate view of spoiling people. Still, the brunette attempted to please her lover as best she could, going through some oils and trying her best to reach wherever he hurt the most. If anything else, she got a real kick out of hearing him purr under her ministrations. That was one for the memory log. Still, perhaps Monica should have expected this. But she was worried one day when Naruto came rushing through the door. Gaara's been kidnapped. I need to go. Monica-chan. Please be safe. I love you, Dabeo. He said and kissed her lips. It was so quick, she could hardly enjoy the feeling, but she quickly wished for him to be safe and not do too many reckless things before watching him rush out of the door. For about 3 days, she worried if Naruto was okay. She wouldn't fool herself. She doubted she could travel at the same speed Naruto was going without the training, and even then she didn't exactly want to make it known just how she came into this village. It was lucky enough they weren't asking questions about her existence. That said, Monica really wished Naruto was home. It definitely felt lonely without him, almost like the classroom she sat in. She actually sighed when she leaned against the railing of his garden and stared out into the village. Still, sulking wasn't really a Monica-esque thing to do, so she decided to do something productive. Walking into the library, Monica registered for a library card and took out at least 3 books concerning chakra. It took a bit of asking, but she then found a decent-looking cafe and busied herself with reading. Monica had heard the word chakra get thrown around a couple of times by Naruto and some of the friends of his who stopped by. The young girl was rather curious about its history, so she looked into it. He had used this chakra thing to bring her into his world, so, naturally, she was a bit inquisitive. By the time of the sunset, Monica had finished all three e-books and gained herself a little headache. She walked home and she found it humorous that she was sitting in their home, on their mat, meditating. From the book, it said that one could feel their chakra from a slight tingle or tug and they just had to pull it. Monica wondered how impressed her lover would be when he learned she had taken an interest in the subject. That said, 3 hours duck no results and Monica finally released a dejected sigh. Okay, so maybe it wasn't as easy as she had assumed it to be. She definitely felt uncomfortable having sat that way for so long, but a ple of stretches had her right as rain before going to bed. It was perhaps close to 2 weeks before Naruto returned home. Monica-chan, what the hell? Naruto cried at the top of his lung when he saw his female lover washing the ceiling, upside down. She glanced at him and gave him a wide smile. She turned around and landed on the floor. Surprise! Monica cheered, only increasing the blonde's surprise. After a moment, Monica quickly spoke with him. She told him what she had been up to since he had left from researching chakra to slowly performing some of the exercises required. She claimed she had gotten over her initial surprise when first discovered her chakra. Since then she had been practicing all the time. She had even gotten one of Naruto's Jonin teachers to give her a piece of Acra paper claiming it would be for his benefit. It was then that she said when she channeled her chakra into the paper it crinkled up. She didn't know what this meant, but it spoke of something D elemental affinities and she had been training ever since. Once she was done, she was surprised to see Naruto, neither happy nor angry with her. There were a couple of reasons for this. 1. Naruto was immensely surprised that Monica grasped her chakra so quickly. Granted, her situation was a tad different from regular people. This only proved that she was easily sustaining her chakra and it would continue to self-sustain. Though, Naruto wondered if this was the case only because she kept near electrical appliances or because she hadn't used as much chakra as he had provided her. She was raw, fair, unique in her creation, so her grasp of the knowledge of chakra was very different from others. Second, Naruto was surprised to learn she knew her elemental affinity already, or at least she had triggered it. Obviously, she had the lightning affinity. Hell, Naruto would have been floored if she said she had an earth affinity with all the electrical power he had pumped into her body. Yet, at the same time, she and Naruto still hadn't come up with a proper origin story for her, and her just casually using those techniques would create some attention. Third, if Monica continued to pursue this, then that might mean that Tsunade might have to recognize her as a shinobi. As much as Naruto preached about being a shinobi and all its wonders, after the incident with Gaara, he felt hesitant to have her go into danger. He had worked so hard to bring her here. He didn't want to think about the possibilities. He told Monica all of these things and she certainly knew how he felt. Yet, Naruto was so happy for her that he couldn't discourage her use or her continued practice with it. He also asked that she be careful or have him around if she did so. Monica agreed to these things without complaint, but other than that Naruto couldn't hold his excitement as he dragged Monica through an awkward dance. Both of them laughed for a time before Naruto began to teach her some of the exercises he had learned. Meanwhile, the brunette was very pleased to learn that Naruto's friend was alive and healthy. However, he then told her that he would possibly be going back out in under a month. Sakura had come across some information about his former teammate that they would be investigating. Monica didn't like to hear this, but Naruto made it up to her by effectively lavishing her for almost a week. She definitely had no complaints. He had even taken her to one of the more famous onsen spots in Konoha. Naturally, she had nothing to hide, so she ordered the mixed bath for them both. It was a definite fun and steamy experience. A time later, Monica had been sitting in the house reading a book when Naruto came through the door. He had told her that he would be leaving soon. The former compilation of computer data sighed and nodded with a smile on her face. Naruto assured her that after this he doubted he would be out of the village for a long period of time. That seemed to make her happy and she watched Naruto off. For this time, Monica found herself deciding that it wouldn't hurt to try to revive her club, perhaps in the form of a social gathering or something like that. Admittedly, she didn't know the process, but it wasn't hard to ask one of the famous shops to create a meeting room for club members. When Monica had placed up posters for the club, she wasn't surprised and she didn't receive any people for about 3 days. It was to be expected, but by the end of the week, she had at least 5 people coming to the room. She had at least 2 civilians, 1 Jonin, and 2 Chunin. Hell, the end of the second week she wondered if she could have gotten a bigger room since it was now filled with almost 20 or so people. She noticed that some of Naruto's teachers were here. There was a Kurenai Yuhi, if the name was recalled. There was a Ebisu there, an Aruka Yumino, and even a person called Shikaku Nara and his wife, Yoshino Nara attended. No doubt the man was Shikamaru's father and mother. Monica decided to start the group off with a discussion of their favorite books and encouraged everyone to exchange books of interest and to keep open minds about these things. The reason she said the open minds thing was because Jiraiya decided to stop by. Some of the women did not hold a high opinion of the man, but Monica eased their tensions claiming that there was no such thing as trash literature and a person's hard work put into writing should be rewarded with at least considerate reading. This seemed to work as some of the women begrudgingly took looks at his works. Much to the man's pleasure. Dare Monica even say that some of the women actually blushed and silently laughed at them. Maybe she would have to get her own. She could just picture active reading between herself and her blonde lover. When she wasn't doing club stuff, Monica decided to continue her training. Turns out, it wasn't bad for civilians to practice shinobi techniques, at least not anything about D rank. Civilians were entitled to self-defense as long as it was within reason and not a deliberate attack against a shinobi official of the governing village. So, Monica bought herself a set of kunai with her lover's money, his permission given, and found that throwing kunai and shuriken was very odd. She felt very clumsy doing so, but it seemed that someone had been watching her. The assistant to the Hokage, Shizune Kato, she recalled, had saw her and offered Monica some pointers which the girl appreciated. Though when Shizune asked what got her interested, the club president could only say she wanted to impress her boyfriend, which made Shizune laugh. The assistant doubted Naruto would care that much, but it warmed her heart enough that she offered to assist Monica when she could. With that done, one might be wondering what Monica would do for money. Well, apparently, Naruto merely suggested she use his own bank account since it would require them to do a bit more extensive background checks on her that he didn't want them to do. She also wasn't struggling, so there was no need for a job. Admittedly, they say that work breeds strong values. But one could understand a young woman suddenly having not to be in an education system day in and day out, and they would see how Monica felt. Still, she didn't mind being the one to do things own the house if Naruto proved himself a competent worker, which he did. Besides, planning for her club and their sessions was pretty time-consuming when it had to be. One day, while Monica was humming a new song in her head while vacuuming and washing some off the dishes, she suddenly felt a very painful urge to see Naruto. She didn't know why, but she could feel a very strong portion of malice coming from him. He seemed very angry, and that scared her just a bit for his own safety. She couldn't stop worrying, and this worry continued for almost an entire hour before the malice was gone. She IGHED and prayed to Kami for the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's safe return. She prayed him to not be doing reckless stuff again. Monica continued to meet with Shizune for another week. Shizune had been surprised at how easily the young girl took to tree climbing and water walking. Monica had stated she had read the exercises in the library. Shizune couldn't help feeling the young girl's enthusiasm. Monica STILL couldn't throw a kunai or shuriken worth a damn, but her supervisor had stated that it was all in the wrist and muscle memory. Shun also decided to work on Monica's sparring. Monica, by her nature, was not a violent person. Her video game character, yes herself, was probably as hypocritical to that statement as the world could get, but inwardly she never had the will to inflict direct harm on anyone. All of her attempts had been sabotage if a word was needed. Yet, with all this training she took to managing her diet, waking up was definitely painful, but it felt very fulfilling. One morning, Monica heard a knock on the door. She gasped happily and quickly opened. "Welcome home, Naruto-kun," she said with a wide smile, but Monica was hella sure that unless she wasn't told something about this that her lover had not turned into a lavender-haired girl with pupil-less eyes. The two stared at each other for a moment. Hello, I'm Monica. May I have your name?" she asked. The girl didn't speak. Monica noticed that she had been carrying something in a small box. "Sorry, Naruto-kun's away right now, but I'll tell him you stopped by if you would like." "Is something the matter?" the brunette asked. Monica was surprised when the girl suddenly had tears in her eyes. She then quickly ran off before Monica could even say anything, which had the girl very confused. It was only during her next book meeting did she learn that she had just had an encounter with Hinata Hyuga, told from one of her members, Kurenai Yuhi. The Jonin had explained how upset Hinata had been, and when Monica asked for the reasons, Kurenai had explained that Hinata had been very smitten with the blonde for a long time. This seemed to light up Monica with acknowledgement. So, she wasn't the only one to notice Naruto after all. "Well, sorry Hinata, if you wanted your chance then you should have taken it earlier." Naruto was Monica's and she was not going to be letting him go, not if she could help it. Monica wasn't going to apologize for such a thing, and if the girl deigned to try and resent her for the fact, then she would just have to live with that. Now, that little mystery out of the way, Monica focused on more training. It was almost 2 weeks later that she could be very happy again. Monica was not expecting to see Naruto in the Hokage office, almost the entire team angry with him, while Tsunade released a breath. "What do you mean you let Sasuke go? Are you telling you had him captured and you still decided to let him escape?" Tsunade asked. Monica blinked as she watched Sakura's scowl. Only the team's apparent new leader and third teammate showed indifference. Hell, even Naruto seemed pleased with himself. "Yeah, I did. Don't worry, Ba-chan, I know what I'm doing. This will help out the village later," Naruto said. Tsunade raised an eyebrow and Naruto could see he had some explaining to do, so he, much to the surprise of everyone, gave a very detailed report of the battle where he and Sasuke fought. Monica, being a civilian, didn't understand too many of the details of the battle, but it sounded like Naruto had the advantage by his terms. He then went on to explain out what bringing Sasuke back to the village at this current point would do for the village. Sure, they would have the Uchiha back, but it would be a very unwilling Uchiha, and that would only cause a greater rift to open from what Konoha and the Uchiha had already been. Obviously, this surprised them of his knowledge, but he had been doing a lot of reading over his 2 years of training. In short, Naruto had placed a seal on Sasuke so that the instant Sasuke completed his vendetta, Naruto could get to him and bring him back. Naruto was not so naive as to believe that just because they brought Sasuke back he wouldn't try to escape again. That was something he constantly fought with Sakura about. Also, reluctant as he wanted to be, Sasuke was a very excellent shinobi, and simply locking away his dojutsu and his chakra to never be used again and have his only purpose become a potential sperm donor to the village was not something Naruto wanted to see. It was with this that Monica could see how much weight Naruto had in the village, if only under the surface. She watched the leader of the village grumble for a moment before she then leaned into her seat. "You'd better be fucking right, brat," was all she said. And he nodded to her confidently that he was. Tsunade dismissed them. It was then that Naruto turned to Monica, and she could feel the happiness radiate from her body as they spent nearly the whole week together. Now, do not mistake Monica. Her and Naruto's relationship wasn't perfect. She couldn't count the number of fights they had, especially about her talk with Hinata. Onika had made it pretty clear that she wanted Hinata to stop stalking her boyfriend and doing the odd things she did, such as keep making food with his face on them. That fight didn't go well with either of them speaking to the other for essentially a week and a half. It was only because Kurenai had seen the situation did she intervene, getting them both to see a point. Kurenai definitely shared in Monika's belief that Naruto was too soft on Hinata and these things had to be done quickly, but she also agreed with Naruto that how the literature club president had approached the subject was very wrong. It ended with blonde Jenin apologizing to Monika and the club president apologizing to both her lover and Hinata for how she addressed the issue. Naruto and Hinata spoke on some things, but Boruto expressed his apologies that he never knew about her feelings and that he would like to continue to stay friends and nothing more. The couple decided to reconcile over a luxury dinner for them both was in order. Since that point, both tried to be more considerate of the other's feelings in the matter, but there were definitely trials and tribulations to deal with, not just for them but also for the village. First there was their combined training. Naruto decided to complete his Rasengan, which he did, making a wind-style Rasengan which took the shape of a shuriken, a fire-style Rasengan which took the shape of a large kunai, and even a water-style Rasengan. Seals were pretty diverse like that. Then there was Monika seeing zombies from that one jutsu by some people who had it out for Asuma from the 12 Guardians. That wasn't fun, but Monika got to test out the fruits of her training with them. She had even, maybe illegally, gotten a hold of AC rank lightning technique which she practiced in her spare time. Then there was an event of sadness when Asuma passed away from being killed in action by two members of the Akatsuki, Hidan and Kakuzu. It was then that Monika held herself as Naruto's emotional support when he began to think it was safer for Konoha if he had just left. Obviously, his being a Jinchuriki was causing more and more people to be targeted, but Monika Kaylee reassured him that the only thing he could do was answer the expectations of those who passed away in trying to protect him. It didn't take long for him to get back into the fight and end the two members who had caused so much pain, not just to Naruto, but also to Team 10. Naturally, Kurenai didn't show up for the club those couple of times since she had been intimate with Asuma, but about a week later and she came back to discuss what she had been reading. One could also imagine Monika's surprise when Naruto suddenly vanished in a puff of smoke and came back with a very bruised and beaten Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke stared at the girl for a moment and Naruto smirked. "Told you I wasn't lying," Naruto remarked, the Uchiha over his shoulder. Sasuke snorted, but he closed his eyes and passed out from blood loss. Naruto also retrieved the raven-haired former Konoha nin's team and they were all confined. Naturally, the return of the Uchiha was met with avid praise and cheers, even now. He had been confined to prison for a couple of weeks. Monika heard that Sakura had visited Sasuke almost day after day for nearly a full month. Tsunade was immensely pleased with Naruto's analysis, and even promoted him to Chunin for the act. The genin now turned Chunin had a wide smile plastered on his face which meant loads of celebration for him and his girlfriend. However, these celebrations wouldn't last. The reason was, Jiraiya passed away from also dealing with the Akatsuki. It took Naruto a very long time to forgive Tsunade for even daring to send him out alone. It was she had just betrayed their whole relationship and Hokage couldn't even do anything to retort his words. For days, not even Monika could find her lover. It was like he had just faded into society. Hitch sent her to bed restless and in anguish. The last thing the girl wanted was for him to be displeased and alone, just like she had been. Monika finally found Naruto panting as he punched and kicked a tree. Why can't anything ever go right? I could have helped him. Why do I have to constantly keep losing everyone? Ero Sennin, you weren't supposed to die. I wanted you to see me propose to Monika-chan in the future. You were supposed to hold our first child. What am I supposed to show now? Naruto asked as tears rolled down his eyes. Monika placed a hand over her mouth. She really underestimated just how much Naruto loved the man. A mixture of sadness and happiness welled up inside her. She made her presence known. Monika didn't mind at all when Naruto asked if she could comfort him. It was a very melancholy affair and it didn't have the fire that it should have, but she felt so pleased that he could still desire her body and she could grant him relief. He pounded and screwed all of his pain, sorrow, and anguish into her body and she accepted all of it. As they laid in the grass in a blanket, Monika said, "Would you let me die?" she asked. He stared at her, shocked at her question. She stared at him and smiled. "I wouldn't let you die, Naruto-kun. I would do everything in my power to keep you safe. I think that's what Jiraiya-san was doing. It wasn't optimal and who knows what would have happened if you had gone, but I think he didn't want you to die and that's why he went. Carry him on, Naruto-kun. I will always be with you and so will he, Monica said, kissing his lips. Naruto gently smiled and hugged her, constantly telling her that he loved her from the bottom of his heart. Monica couldn't have been happier at that moment. That wasn't to say that things calmed down, because they didn't. Turns out there were elder toads and they had taken Naruto and Monica to the sacred land of the toads where Naruto trained in his senjutsu to defeat the apparent leader of Akatsuki. Monica took the time to learn about Shima and Fukasaku, Ma and Pa for others, with Ma trying to teach Monica her recipes. To her credit, the literature club president maintained her stomach enough to politely decline, stating that she had already eaten. Fukasaku had taken a glance at the brunette and smiled. He had Shima train her as well in some arts, though Monica didn't know why. When they returned, Konoha had been destroyed. Both could see Sasuke standing between the leader of Akatsuki, Pain, and Tsunade, who also looked very injured. The Uchiha panted tiredly as his blade coursed with Raiden chakra. You're late, Doki, Sasuke said with a smirk while Naruto looked over the area. Monica glanced around as, well, so much death and destruction, she couldn't feel a single soul around. Sasuke, Ba-chan, stand back, Monica-chan and I will deal with him, Naruto said. Tsunade could hardly hold her shock. Was Naruto sending in a young civilian girl to help him? She wanted to voice her concern, but Sasuke quickly took her away without another word. Despite how nervous she felt, Monica tapped into her chakra. Months and months of practice finally paid off. Fukasaku had told her that the real one wasn't among them. It was a surprise to everyone, but Monica could actually feel the electrical current that floated around the world, no doubt because of Naruto's sealing power in creating her. But she could feel all sources of electricity, even neural electricity. Monica-chan, Naruto hollered as the girl felt her body pulled. She coughed as a spray of blood came from her mouth and she fell to the ground. This is your pain, Uzumaki Naruto. You should not have gotten others involved. Now, you will die along with the elder toad sage, Pain said as Monica fell to the ground. There was a lot of pain in her body, but she slowly opened her eyes and the literature club president released a chilled breath when she saw what was her lover and now a miniature sculpture of the Kyuubi chasing down Pain for all the damage he had done. She didn't want to see him like that. She didn't want to see him so angry and upset. She wanted to fall unconscious, but she could not. She loved him and he needed her. He needed her so badly. A massive explosion made her jump in fear, but she continued crawling to him. Yes, she feared him, but she desperately loved him. She couldn't leave him alone. She wanted to stand next to him. The green crystal around her neck glowed a bright color and the power from within carried her to him. In its energy, Naruto, in all his hate, was wrapped around her. He roared at her, but she merely hugged him. It's okay, Naruto-kun. I'm here. There's no need to be angry. I'm here with you, she said. His form vanished away and Naruto cried into her arms. The light faded and Naruto, with the last of his will, defeated Pain and spoke with Nagato and Konan. He swore to them both that he would find the meaning to all of this hatred that the world seemed to hold. Both were quickly convinced and decided to place one last chance into the hope for humanity on the blonde's shoulders. Yet, he would not be doing it alone. He had the greatest woman at his side. So, Nagato revived the residents of Konoha and people cheered his name while Monica smiled in the background. It was a shame that despite this, Tsunade had been in a coma from her chakra exhaustion. Over the past month or so, the reconstruction of the village had been going smoothly. Knowledge had come forward that Akatsuki had captured the Hachibi and this seemed to spark everything. A council for all 5 nations had been summoned about what to do with the Akatsuki threat. Monica heard that a man named Shimura Danzo had been assigned the role of Rokudaime Hokage candidate. He would be the temporary Hokage until Tsunade could awaken. It was very clear that Naruto didn't like the issue, but he didn't press it. Instead, Naruto was given free rein to train Monica how he saw fit and he gave her as much knowledge into the life of a kunoichi as he could. She absorbed all of it. Hell, Even Sasuke helped out with Naruto's urging. It wasn't long before everyone heard of the war between the 5 great nations and Akatsuki. The tales of Uchiha Madara resurfaced and he claimed the 4th Great Shinobi War. Monica had read up on the previous 3, and if this was any indication, then it was going to be very bad. Plans were quickly made upon Tsunade recovering from her coma. Danzo had apparently passed away attempting to do battle with Uchiha Madara. Forgive Naruto if he didn't cry over that death. Naruto was now mature enough that he was told where he and Kurabi, who had survived the attack, would be headed and why. Obviously, he disapproved, as did Monica. Naruto had the power to level an entire country in his stomach, and now everyone wanted to protect him. It was ridiculous. Still, he didn't argue, if only because he and Kyuubi could finally have a long overdue talk. Turns out, the secret area was on a massive turtle. Naruto got the moment to speak with Kurabi, though it took both of them a minute to understand his speech. After some time, he took Naruto to the Falls of Truth, and Naruto confronted with his dark self. It constantly told him why he bothered forgiving Konoha for all the pain that nearly 15 years had caused them, only to try to be erased in under a month. It told him that Monica would leave him and she would be disgusted with him, but Naruto shook his head. He claimed that it wasn't Konoha's fault and it wasn't Kyuubi's fault what happened. Naruto claimed that life just wasn't fair, and even if Monica decided to not be with him, it would definitely hurt, but he loved her to be happy and she would find it hopefully. He told Dark Naruto that it would be okay and that he didn't have to be angry anymore. It wasn't Konoha that he had forgiven, but he had forgiven himself, and he no longer needed their acknowledgement. He only needed his own and Monica's. Dark Naruto frowned for a moment before grinning. "You take care of her. She's too good for us, you know," he said before fading. Naruto agreed. Meanwhile, Monica had been facing the same thing. She saw herself sitting in her desk, that sickening but knowing smile on her face. "Well, look at us. We're just living the life now, aren't we? Do you think anyone would accept you if you told them the truth? Do you think your love is real? You're stupid and you know it. He's just using this love of yours to keep you from hurting anyone else. That's all you know how to do. Admit it. You just want to erase the world and keep him in your own little box, just like you were." "You're pathetic," Dark Monica said. The girl frowned and closed her eyes. She nodded. "Hi, I am pathetic. I was pathetic for thinking that I had to erase my friends just to spend time with the man I loved. I was pathetic in relying on him all the time, and I'm pathetic for feeling all this happiness and wishing I could continue it. I want to so much, but I can't help it. I love him so much. I can't keep him confined to a box. No matter how much I want to. I have to trust him just as he trusted me. He laid out so many fears and problems to me, and how could I not do the same? I was wrong, and if I could go back and redo it, then I would. But I can still feel the times he embraced me, the times he told me he loved me, the gifts he's given to me, and I want to be selfish. I want him all to me. I can only promise to never do what I have done again. I want to live a long, happy life with him and make him happy. I feel like it's the only way I can atone for my sins to the friends I have lost," Monica said. The two fired back statements, but Monica placed her foot down. "If Naruto-kun doesn't love me anymore, then I will let him go. That is something I could never have done if I was still back in that computer. It will be the worst pain I have ever felt, but that is what it means to think about someone else's happiness and not your own," she said. Dark Monica stayed silent for a moment. "Happiness is understanding. What must it mean to keep things together? We are a part of the earth, and the earth rotates to all life. Pain is in the world, but if loving you is pain, then understanding is suffering. Happiness is not measured by how I live, but how I lived. Though I am words wrapped in the flesh of light, I will still seek what is eternally bright. You really have grown. Make sure you keep him in line. He's hopeless without us," Dark Monica said and vanished away. Both hugged each other. With help, Naruto and Kyuubi battled against each other within his own body. It was there that he met his mother and father, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Both told him how immensely pleased and proud they were of him, and even the details behind his birth. Minato apologized for the burden he forced his son to endure, but Naruto told him that he found something to combat the hate received from the Kyuubi. His love of Monika was so much stronger than his hate for what Konoha and the Kyuubi had done. He hugged them both and they gave him as much love as parents could in that time window. With their help, he took control of Kyuubi's power and exited the temple. The blonde Jinchuriki turned to the Hachibi Jinchuriki with his lover in his arms. "I'm going to stop this war now," he said, and he threw up an array of seals. They broke the barrier effortlessly and the three vanished away. Monika's heart was noticeably lighter when they left. When Monika opened her eyes, she was staring up at the ceiling of her apartment. Her lover's labored breathing told her that they were home and that last week had finally come to an end. So much had happened, from Naruto forgiving Tsunade, and Tsunade placing her trust in the trio to stop the war, to nearly the end of the world with Madara and Zetsu reviving Akagaya Otsutsuki. Monika could honestly say, living and being the girlfriend of Uzumaki Naruto was not an easy thing to have. It didn't help that she nearly died trying to power the seal which kept Kagaya in the moon. Thankfully, Sasuke had her extra supply of electrical power. To this day, Sasuke was the only one who knew the situation with Monika, and even he couldn't fully accept it. Yet, the infinite Tsukuyomi was destroyed, and the allied shinobi force had triumphed. The brunette girl sighed and kissed Naruto's cheek one more time before going back to sleep. It was a time before she woke up again. The sun had long set. Monika blinked when she noticed that her blonde lover was gone. She leaned up and she noticed a piece of paper with an arrow on it. She blinked and followed it to another piece. She followed, and still followed until she came to the balcony, and she gasped as Naruto looked out into the village. "You're awake," he said. She smiled and slid next to him. "What were the signs for?" she asked, and Naruto cleared his throat. "Want to take a walk?" Naruto asked her suddenly. She noticed that he didn't answer her question, but she agreed. Both got dressed and walked out into the street. Naruto waved at many people and Monika did the same. Monika's glare scared off any girl who was desperate to give the blonde presents, but it didn't take them long to get the hint. It wasn't long before they appeared on top of the Hokage stone faces. She stood at his side and looked down at the glowing lights. They still looked as beautiful as ever. "Remember this place?" Naruto asked. Monika blushed, but yes, she did remember. How could she forget the place where she first made love in a new world with her lover? It would be impossible for her. She then gasped when she saw beautiful fireworks light up the sky around them. Each explosion told a story of the battles and the heroes who had fought in victory and defeat. Yes, a festival for the allied forces and what they had done. "Hi, this was where you gave me my life. I have my literature club. I have a real lover. And I feel pride in myself for doing all these things to stay next to you. It hasn't been easy, but I never asked for easy," she replied. Naruto cleared his throat and then leaned behind her. He clasped her hands and he then took out a small book. "Let your colors burst. When it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars." How did the fireworks of her soul ignite his starless sky? Do we make mistakes? We call mistakes the dreams not taken, and we call that living, yearning, finding, and feeling. For you have touched one's soul with your words and your actions. Falling in love is easy. Creation of life is easy. However, finding one who could instill in you all the aspects of a fiery touch is rarely found. If we kept walking through our storm, we will see the end one day. For we live for the moments we can't describe. A spark to ignite in a flash so bright. A life started here, and I know there is nothing to fear. For I have you to be near, Naruto said. Monika remained silent. Naruto spun around and closed the book. Monika-chan, we've been going out for about a year now, and I would like nothing more than to continue going out with you. I want to take you anywhere that makes you happy, because the only thing that makes me happy is you. I couldn't imagine a life where I led the village without you to be near me. Would you marry me? Naruto asked, opening a box with a wonderful ring and green crystal in it. It fired up from the fireworks and Monika closed her eyes. She threw herself in Naruto and accepted over and over and over. Naruto slipped the ring onto her finger as they kissed over top the village. Oh yeah, Tonari Otsutsuki was there to disrupt some plans, but they took care of him with Naruto slashing the moon in half. Yeah, he could do that now. Anyway, 2 years passed, and Naruto waved to everyone as he was inaugurated as the Nanadime Hokage of Konohagakure. People cheered their loudest while his friends looked on in wonder. The blonde smirked at them all and the ceremony died down. He returned to his new office and noticed his assistant sitting on the table. Are you sure I shouldn't cut my hair? I thought it would look cool, I guess, Naruto said. She frowned, remembering the time she caught him with those clippers. Naruto had tried to argue some things, but she was adamant that he not change his hair. Don't you dare, you know I love your bangs. Don't make me tie you up again, she said, smiling. Naruto leaned up against her and quickly kissed her. Monica wrapped her arms around his neckline. You'd enjoy that, wouldn't you? He asked. She winked at him before pulling out a new copy of Ika Ika. Oh dear, how did that get there? Who could have written such raunchy literature? Oh dear, oh dear. Well, it does happen in page 37. We rehearsed that part before, she remarked to him. He laughed at her and then quickly kissed her some more. Her tongue trailed across his lips, which made him feel so warm. Monica leaned back. Why did you want to become the Hokage's assistant anyway? Don't you have your club? He asked. She glanced at him with a bright smile and neatly piled up some papers. He gave him a firm look at her body, which left him in a very confused state of arousal. No worries, she wanted that to happen. She turned around and sauntered her way over to him. She traced a finger over his shoulder. Are you kidding? When you told me how much time you would have to devote to this job, did you think I would let you tackle it all on your own? You humor me, good sir. Besides, one way or the other, you're spending time with our son when we're free, she said, gently rubbing her belly. Naruto smirked and gave her a hypnotizing nod. Monica kissed her husband dearly. Kami, she loved this man in front of her. So Hokage-sama, you have a free day. Your poor assistant is all alone in your new office, and you need to see how everything works. Want to christen your office? She asked, sitting on his table. Her answer was a flick of Naruto's wrist. A seal to block out all noise and a clone to lock the door was all she saw. He dropped his Hokage robes, his hat, and then his attire. Don't think that just because you're the Hokage's assistant, I'm going to take it easy on you, he told her. She blinked for a moment and then haughtily decided to answer him. Oh, woe is me, nothing's ever easy for me. It's only hard, she said before she ushered a wide moan from her lips as Monica embraced Naruto, her husband. Kami, how could a life turn out like this? Merely from one young boy's desire to have a computer's compilation of data be even more than he could have ever dreamed. Through so many trials and obstacles did they fight, but Monica never lost what was important, and she didn't mess up this time. She became good friends with Ino, Karui, Sakura, Hinata, Tamari, and Tenten. From just a simple question and a simple answer, a life of joy and sorrow had followed them both, but that was fine. What was a life without these things? Yet, even as his wife moaned to the world underneath him, Naruto still had one more surprise for her. As he panted and thrust into her body, he gave a slight glance to his computer. What a surprise to await her when he had the time. But, if she didn't like it, then that was fine. All he needed was Monica. Just Monica. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.